Well, the most interesting thing that's happened to me this past year is I published my first book. So, Dominic, I often joke with people. It's like there's some statistic out there about the number of people that plan to write a book and then how many actually do. And I think it's below 1%.
It's,
And now I
yeah,
understand why, because it's one of those things as you're planning, you're like, I know a lot about this topic. This shouldn't be that hard. And man, you start putting it together and it is hard because
yeah.
sooner or later you have to get down to, you got to stop the editing. You got to press the go button and publish it. And that's really hard because
Mm-hmm.
you understand at the moment you do that, it's in print and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a much more difficult and time consuming process than I ever imagined. So it finally came out in April 17th specifically. And that's just been a wonderful thing because people like to read books. And my approach about pro-life, we can talk about that more later if you'd like, but my approach to this whole issue is very different.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm getting a lot of interesting feedback about that from the pro-life community. And it's just been, I guess it's been 6 months now that the book's been out. And that's been something that's a very new experience for me.
Well, fantastic. Let's dive right in. I want to hear more about this book. So welcome to everyone. Today we are joined by Brett Atteberry. He is an author and speaker, and the book we're talking about is what he published, Your Pro-Life Bottom Line. And I believe the subtitle here is Why Overturning Roe versus Wade Will Have Little Impact on Ending Abortion. And it's also about consumer marketing strategies and so on. So it seems like I'm looking forward to this discussion, see where this goes. Friends, this is Smart Catholics Mastermind. It's about meeting the minds and hearts of Catholic creators. They have invested or devoted their time and talent to mastering their journey and vocation so that normal people like you and I can live fuller lives faster, maybe get a little smarter. Brett, before talking about the book and your ministry, can we talk about you? What is your origin story, and how'd you get to a point where you're writing a book like this?
Yeah, it's a long story. I'll give you the short version. First of all, I'm not a cradle Catholic. I was, as my dear friend who wrote the foreword to my book likes to call me, goes, well, you were kind of an ethical pagan. It's like you didn't really believe in anything in terms of religion, but you were a pretty good guy. I guess that's a compliment. And about the time I was, right before I turned 40, so almost 20 years ago, I had a profound conversion experience, which still I look back on that. I don't know exactly why. My life was great. I was achieving everything I ever wanted to achieve, at least in the material world. And I just had this profound mystical experience. It felt like, I was laying there in bed one night. It felt like the Holy Spirit had been poured into me.
Wow.
And I was like, man, I got to do something about this. And being from Oklahoma originally, even though I was living in Philadelphia when this happened, I kind of thought, hey, I'll start going to a Baptist church, which is what I did. And then as is recorded in the foreword to my book that my dear friend wrote, I signed a letter to him that said, God bless. And he was like, what is that? Because he knew that I was, not a religious person. So he called me up, and he happened to be Catholic. And he said, have you considered the Catholic Church? I was like, well, no, but I don't have anything against it. He goes, would you go over to a Catholic church and share the same story you just shared with me about what happened to you? I was like, sure. So one day I was driving home from work and turned into the local Catholic church and went up there and met with the priest. And a week later, I was an RCIA. And the following year, on April 10th of 2004, came into the church. So that was a beautiful thing in my life. And it kind of started down the road to where I am now, but it took a while. And that is, I had in my background, when I was just a teenager, my girlfriend became pregnant, and together we agreed, and she had an abortion. And, it didn't really mean much to me at the time. I was just a selfish, self-centered teenager. But here I am decades later, now I had a family, I had children, and it was starting to kind of bother me. But this took a long time to play out, Dominic, years actually, because I was 100% confident that God had forgiven me for what I had done so long ago.
Mm-hmm.
But something was not right. And I started going to the March for Life in Washington, D.C. A friend had invited me and started going to that.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was really starting to bother me. And I was like, am I having this classic case of Catholic scrupulosity? But I didn't think so. And I was driving home from work one day, listening to Catholic radio, and a commercial came on for a Rachel's Vineyard retreat, which is healing for people who have had experience with abortion.
Mm-hmm.
And I just knew I had to be there, and I ended up going to that. And really, this is the pivot point in my life. During that retreat, I had an hour alone with Jesus in the Blessed Sacrament, and just thanked him for healing me, because I realized that this is the retreat that I needed. And it was at that moment that I committed my life away from consumer product marketing. I was in the high-tech industry, over to I'm going to be full-time pro-life. I had no idea at the time, Dominic, what that meant. But I just started doing stuff based on what I had experience at. And it ended up connecting me to Heroic Media, which is the company I have the honor of leading now as president. And God's just used me in the past 10 years to do this. So it's a great blessing.
Tell us then more about this ministry, Heroic Media, and what it does, and let's talk about the book.
Sure. Heroic Media historically has been about marketing in the pro-life movement. Started in 2004. Back then, I won't say it was pre-internet, but it was well before the internet could do the kinds of things it can do now. So a lot of typical advertising, specifically helping pro-life pregnancy centers across the country. So back then, it would have been a lot of TV, a lot of radio, billboards, and things like that. When I came aboard in 2015, with an internet marketing background, I was like, well, how do we track the results of all those things? And it was very hard to do. I said, the one thing I know we can track the results of are Google advertisements. So we went all in on that, and we've been doing that, and we still do that. So typically the way it works is if a young woman who's facing an unexpected pregnancy uses her phone, Googles, how do I get an abortion? When the search results appear, there will be advertisements at the top. You can almost be sure that a Planned Parenthood ad will be there, but we pop in an ad right there to compete against that Planned Parenthood ad. And if a woman responds to our ad, we connect her to a local pregnancy center in her area. So it's a wonderful product. It saves lives. It's beautiful because we can track everything. We can tell our benefactors like the results that they got. So that's typically what Heroic Media has historically done.
So then that sounds incredible. So what prompted then writing a book? What prompted the book?
Yeah. So when I look at the pro-life movement and marketing in the pro-life movement, even what we do at Heroic Media, to me, it is reactive marketing. Even that process I just explained to you is the woman faces an issue. She goes, we respond to her search with an ad, we connect her. It's kind of like an intervention. And that's wonderful. It's beautiful. But what I realize as a marketer is that Planned Parenthood has been running, let's call it brand advertising for decades.
Right.
Most young women in our country, I think around 93%, are familiar with the Planned Parenthood brand name. And that means, Dominic, many times when they face an unexpected pregnancy, they're just going to go straight to Planned Parenthood. They don't need to go onto the internet and search. And so I realized we're just capturing a very small number. It's still wonderful because we save lives from abortion, and that's beautiful. But then about 3 years ago, I found this pregnancy center in St. Louis, Missouri, called Thrive Express Women's Healthcare, that had taken that branding approach and started it like 10 years ago in St. Louis. And if you look at their results over time, you essentially see their results going up in terms of their client numbers. And the Planned Parenthood they're competing against going down. It's like the perfect market share X that as a marketer you like to see. Yeah. And essentially they pretty much ran Planned Parenthood out of St. Louis. I mean, in October 2019, Planned Parenthood pretty much shut down. They did a handful of abortions in 2020 and 2021, but they'd done like 5,000 7 years earlier. So I was like, here's the approach that works, because we're not being reactive anymore. We're being proactive. We're getting out in front of the issue. And Thrive, essentially through its branding program, what was happening is they were replacing Planned Parenthood in the minds of young women in St. Louis. So that if and when those young women ever faced an unexpected pregnancy, they contacted Thrive, not Planned Parenthood. And that, when you're a marketer, when you understand brand marketing, that's how you win. And so here's a company, here's an organization, a provider of alternatives to abortion. And in my mind, it was just like writing the book was explaining from a marketer's perspective how they did that, kind of reverse engineering it. And then also encouraging people to take this plan or to bring this plan to their own cities so that we can do the same thing in other cities as Thrive did in St. Louis.
Amazing. I mean, I love branding. I'm in branding and marketing, not at your capacity, but I begin to get like why some of that is amazing and just so powerful. I mean, the two key things that are standing out there is the use of the words thrive and the words healthcare. And those seem like the kinds of words that would resonate very quickly, as opposed to, well, I don't know, Planned Parenthood. It's a different focus, and it feels more supportive of what the woman needs at that moment.
I'll tell you about this. Is very brilliant what Thrive did in St. Louis, because I like that you mentioned healthcare. And this is hard for people that are pro-life to hear, but marketers have to deal with the reality of what's in their target market's brains. And the reality is that Planned Parenthood for decades has trained women to think of abortion equals women's health care. That's the reality. We may not like it, but it's just true. And so as a marketer, if you're competing against Planned Parenthood, you can say, well, I don't like that. I'm going to push back against it with these kind of moral messages and things like that. Frankly, it won't go in the young woman's mind. It's like a clanging gong. It just bounces off. So instead, if you just accept that they won that battle and just pick it up and then add to it an aspirational word like thrive, which is what everybody wants to do. Young women are no different than you and me. They just want to be happy and successful in life and maximize the gifts that God has given them. So you have thrive, express, fast. Young people like fast. Women's healthcare. You're just bringing together all the things that already resonate with young women's minds anyway. So automatically you're in a good position as you start to advertise to them, just with the name that you have for your business. And you back that up with two things. If you see Thrive's ads, there's no moral message whatsoever. As a matter of fact, they're like trendy. They kind of remind you of maybe like Apple iPhone ads. You know, they got incredible colors, amazing images, words that like young people use that I don't even recognize. The music is incredible, all those things. And the second thing is, which is so important in brand marketing, is you have to run these advertisements all the time. Women have to be exposed to them over and over and over and over again. And that's how you gradually move your competitor out of the women's brains, or at least put their competitor in the second position and put yours into the top position. And Thrive did it beautifully, and it worked.
Yeah. Start to create that question so that they then have to reconsider what is actually solving their needs. Amazing. So you said the book's been out for about 6 months. What's been the response to the book? And what, I assume you're on speaking tours and offering workshops. Like, what's going on with you now?
Yeah, no workshops, because I still have to run Heroic Media. Most of what we're trying to do right now, Dominic, is get the word out about Thrive. We have partnered with Thrive to try to expand their business model into other cities. We've successfully had a couple of investors who have got that Thrive marketing plan running in Oklahoma City and in Philadelphia. And so we're not doing road tours so much, but we're out there looking for, I call them, they're a significant philanthropist who can really move the needle, who can get it started in a city. I think it's so exciting as a program that once you get it started in a city, the local community will gather around it and start to support it on an ongoing basis. But right now we're looking primarily to get into those cities. Advertising is not inexpensive. So we're looking to get into there, and we're looking for philanthropists who can support us in that effort.
Amazing. Apart from looking for philanthropists and so on, who's the best kind of person to work with you, or to reach out to you, or to collaborate with you? Who who are you looking to, I guess, like partner up with? Is it people in the pews? Is it people of influence? Like, who are you looking to work with you, especially with this book? Or you just want to get it in as many hands as possible?
Yeah, it's a business book. It doesn't mean it's not accessible to those who don't have business backgrounds. And the reason why I say that is because it's a marketing, especially a consumer marketing book.
Right.
And even if you're not trained in consumer marketing, just by fact that you are a consumer, you understand a lot of the concepts because you're constantly on the receiving end
Right.
of consumer
Right.
marketing. So I don't put a lot of super difficult concepts in there. So I think anybody, even those who don't have a business background, can understand what I talk about in there. So want to get into the hands of people, like I said, primarily right now, interested in philanthropists who can really move the needle. But over time, I think we want to get this message out to as many pro-lifers as possible, because the ultimate goal is to establish Thrive as the first national counter brand to Planned Parenthood.
Oh, amazing.
When I meet with philanthropists, it's just a matter of time before that question comes up. You know, we're talking about what Thrive does or what the pro-life movement's doing. And of course, Planned Parenthood is always there in the back of people's minds. And they'll ask, it's like, well, what is our national brand answer to Planned Parenthood?
Okay.
And the truth is, Dominic, is there isn't one. There just isn't. And so the idea here is to bring Thrive forward as that counter brand, because Thrive has proven that they could actually defeat Planned Parenthood in a head-to-head battle in a large city. And the additional thing that's exciting now is a lot of people don't realize this in pro-life, but the abortion industry has completely transformed, or is in the process of completely transforming, from an in-clinic procedure to distribution of the abortion pills over the internet from a telehealth visit.
Right.
And so what Thrive is doing is basically matching that with its own telehealth service called Thrive Plus. And the reason I get excited about that is because what it means now is taking that in-clinic experience at Thrive, virtualizing it, putting it on the internet with a visit just like you and I are doing right now.
Wow. Okay.
And what it means is the registered nurse who's conducting that visit with the young woman who's facing an unexpected pregnancy, that registered nurse can live anywhere in the country. And that's beautiful, because what it means now is we don't have to build a facility, like a brick and mortar physical facility in a city, before we start running the advertisements. You can go right into any city, start running that brand advertising program that was proven to defeat Planned Parenthood, and then just connect them to the telehealth visit. And that means, because we can do it that way, that means we can do it rapidly. We can go city by city by city. So I think, Dominic, it's a matter of getting the funding, of course, but I think we could accomplish this in 24 to 36 months, possibly faster. So it's pretty exciting.
Brett, that's one of the most exciting things I've heard in a long time. How can people get a copy of the book? Where can they find you online?
So 2 places. You can go to my website, which is brettatteberry.com. That's BRETTATTEBERY.com. Or you can just go straight over to Amazon. It's on Amazon, and just either type in my name or look up the title of the book, Your Pro-Life Bottom Line.
Fantastic. And I'll put those links in the description for those who want to grab those. Just a second, I want to ask you about your 1-minute message to Catholics everywhere. If you've enjoyed this video, please hit like. It does help more people to discover Brett and his work and hear this conversation. This show is brought to you by the free online community for Catholic millennials, creators, and learners who want faithful conversations, unafraid of doubts and questions. Together, it's about getting a little smarter. Come and check us out at smartcatholics.com. Brett, if you had 1 minute to share a word of encouragement or a message to Catholics everywhere, what would you want to say?
So I was trying to find the book that I read this in, but it made such an impact on me that I made it part of my hourly update. And it is this: prayer and holiness of life are ever the 2 great means of action on the heart of God and the hearts of men. So from my perspective, that means living from your heart, living a dignified life, a life of integrity from the inside. If you're doing that, in other words, the way I would say it, if anyone could see what was going on in your heart at any time and you were proud of it, not ashamed of it, then your life is going to be not only amazing because God's going to be able to use you in the way he wants to use you, but you're going to attract into your life those people that God can bring alongside you to accomplish your purpose and your mission. So live a life of prayer and holiness, never give up, and keep working on it.